So, hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of How Do You Keep Well? Today, I have a delightful doctor with me. She smiles a lot and she sings really well. She's my very good friend, and we both enjoy lifestyle medicine. But Dr. Makinde is a consultant family physician as well as a board certified lifestyle medicine physician in Lagos, Nigeria. She is also the president of the Society of Lifestyle Medicine in Nigeria. So I'm really honored to have Dr. Makinde sitting here with me this afternoon on not quite sunny afternoon here in UK. I'm not too sure what it's like in Nigeria right now, but I would let Dr. Makinde introduce herself to us in our own words so that I'm not removing any of the awesome work she does in Nigeria. Dr. Makinde, please tell us a bit more about yourself.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jai. And hello to everyone who is joining on the set. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for this invitation. And well, if I'm going to talk about myself, people call me Dr. Uri. But my full name is Muyosuri Taiwo Makinde. I'm a twin, and I studied in the same school with Jai years ago. That's the University of Ibadan and the University College
It's the best
Hospital.
university in Nigeria.
I was graduate training at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital in Lagos, and presently working as a consultant and trainer in family medicine at the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. I'm also the convener of the Lifestyle Champions International. It's an organization, a non-governmental organization that seeks to raise a community of like-minded individuals who are passionate about making healthy choices, their lifestyle, making it their lifestyle and living it out every day in order to prevent lifestyle-related diseases. So I'm also a wife and a mother to 3 teenagers.
Wow.
I think that's a little summary.
Oh, that is not a little summary. That is a lot of things in a few words. Thank you so much, Dr. Uri. So today I have chosen a topic that revolves around aging. And I'm hoping that you can share your wisdom based on your knowledge and based on your experience so far about general, maybe myths, misconceptions about aging. And hopefully we can talk a bit more about what we can do now to help us age well. One of the topics that really fascinates me is Healthspan and lifespan. And I know we will talk about it perhaps along the line in this podcast episode today. But Dr. Uri, let's start with some of the myths about aging. I mean, one I always hear people talk about is, for example, let's talk about drinking milk. Some people feel that they can't drink milk as they get older, partly because the enzymes that digest milk is no longer working as it should, and it causes all sorts of problems. And that is quite true to a certain extent. But also there are things you can use or replace with milk. But the reason I talk about it as a myth is that it stops people from getting the essential nutrients they need to strengthen their bone, and becomes a bit of an issue, especially for women as they get into midlife and they get into menopause transition and they lose estrogen. So that's one myth I hear a lot. I'm always trying to explain to people, yes, you can, even if you stop drinking milk, you do need to, look for other alternatives that would help to strengthen your bone in calcium and other nutrients that will support your muscles as well. So, Dr. Ray, I would like to hear from you. What do you think, or what myths about aging have you heard, or misconceptions about aging have you heard about? Let's start from there.
All right. Thank you so much, Jai, for that question. So let's start with the milk aspect. Yes, so a lot of people consider not just milk, but even things like meat. You hear people saying that once you're past the age of 40, don't take milk, don't take meat products. And there's some element of truth in it, just like you said, because we have studies now that relate animal-based products, especially red meats and processed animal products, to the development of lifestyle-related diseases, especially cancers, even type 2 diabetes and heart disease. They are related to the consumption of red meat. So even in Yoruba parlance, where I come from, they will say, just leave it for the children and all. So there's a lot of wisdom in it. However, if you are leaving out meat, you should be able to make healthier choices. If you are leaving out milk that comes from an animal, maybe a cow, there are other alternatives, and people need to be aware of those alternatives. For red meat, we get protein from red meat, we get iron from red meat, but you can also get it from chicken, you can get it from fish, you can get it from legumes such as beans, you can get it from nuts and seeds. In fact, I take a lot of nuts and seeds because I've not been taking red meat for some years now. So you only find some chicken sometimes on my plate, and mostly fish on my plate. If it's milk, there are other alternatives as well. We have almond milk, we have soya milk. People have not tried these things out. But I remember that as a young girl, my mom made us to prepare soya milk. In fact, we used to sell soya milk.
Wow.
And people used to enjoy. They used to enjoy it. In fact, they would call myself and my twin sister, "Oh, are you not bringing soya milk for us today?"
Wow.
And it just highly proteinous. You have your calcium, you have your ions and other elements that your body needs to be able to develop and prevent some of these illnesses that you've talked about. So that's one aspect of it, looking at the meals that we take. Yes, it's important that we make healthier choices as we age because our bodies are not really as resilient as when we're younger. And our metabolism also slows down. So the things that we used to process so easily and break down, we find out that our body doesn't really do that as well anymore. So, but when we give our body that support, that nutrition, then it's actually better for us. The other myth that I'll mention before I will allow you to come in is the myth around sleep.
Yes.
People believe that as you age, as you grow older, you don't need as much sleep as before. Yes, and there's really some element of truth in it as well. Remember that babies can even sleep for up to 18 hours when they're less than 1 month old. As they grow older, they need less sleep. However, when we're between the ages of 18 and 65, and even above 65, we need an average of about 8 hours. That's a comfortable range. But some people would actually say, oh, since I'm older now, maybe sleeping 5 or 6 hours might be enough for me. But it really is not enough from studies. And sleep can affect our genes, shorten our telomeres, and reduce our longevity. We were talking about lifespan, the span of our lives in the beginning. Yeah, so some of these unhealthy lifestyles can emanate from the myths that people have, and those things need to be corrected so that people can make healthier choices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know you talked very, very briefly there about the telomeres. And again, for our listeners, can you tell us a little bit more about what these telomeres are, perhaps what they do, and I know you mentioned how our lifestyle or our lifestyle behaviors can affect these telomeres. Tell us a little bit more, just out of interest, what this means to our lifespan and our health span.
Yes. So many of us know what chromosomes are.
Yeah.
Chromosomes are code for the different characteristics that we have, like eyes, our hair, and different parts of our body and genetics generally. However, at the tip of those chromosomes, we have what we call telomeres. And studies have shown that those telomeres, the longer they are, the more likely you are to live longer. That means the longer your lifespan. But the shorter they are, then the shorter your lifespan. So some of these studies have also now related our lifestyle habits or choices to our telomeres. So there are certain things that you would do that can shorten that cap on your chromosome.
Mm.
and make to die prematurely, or make someone, not you,
I
make
know
someone.
what you mean, not me.
Make,
I know individuals, absolutely.
so it's important that we take note of that. We are conscious of it. We have other things that can affect our telomeres, really. We know that genetics is part of it, but let's look at telomeres like a switch at the base of the chromosome. You can switch it on and off depending on your lifestyle. So someone has said that we're born with cancer genes or cancer cells. People say that, and we have a lot of pro-inflammatory things. Okay, I don't want to talk too much
Science.
jargon here. Yeah.
No, but
But
those things make sense because a lot of my listeners like to understand what maybe the scientific basis of some of these things are. And I quite like how you have explained it like a switch that comes on, and it depends on the environment. The environment or the gene is present in can switch it on or switch it off. And from what I understand, they're saying perhaps this pro-inflammatory cells, or the cells that encourage inflammation, may be one of the factors that contribute to these telomeres. Is that correct?
yes, they can shorten the telomeres because there are certain hormones and certain markers that we find in the body. You can measure them. Let me give us an example. A study has shown that there's a particular marker in the body that increases when we don't sleep enough.
Mm.
So that is a marker of chronic inflammation. So once you don't sleep enough, that particular marker will be high within the bloodstream. And sometimes the doctors can say, oh, let's check for inflammation. So they will say, go and check your C-reactive protein, that's CRP, to find out if there's inflammation. But that is a marker which has been associated with cardiac events and also higher when we don't sleep enough. So that's just an example of something that can also shorten our telomeres. People that sleep less than 6 hours habitually have been shown to have a higher risk of heart attacks, and they have been shown to also die prematurely compared to people who sleep 7 hours and
wow.
more.
So there's such a big difference between people who sleep for less than 6 hours compared to people who sleep for about 7 hours. And like you said, habitually. So that is that's a big deal.
It is.
Wow. One of the things I read recently as well, when it comes to telomere, the telomere cap lengthening, is things like mindfulness and meditation and the impact they can have on prolonging life. Obviously, what we're talking about is not just prolonging life and living forever. We're talking about living life well. And that is what I refer to as the health span. You don't want to keep marking birthdays after birthdays where people are absolutely not feeling well after every birthday. But what you really want is each of your decade, each life, each year, you want to have reasons to feel well and live happy and live healthy. And that is the purpose. So really going back to our conversation, I know one of the things you talked about earlier was learning to look after ourselves, really. Now, I certainly know that there are some pitfalls with aging, things people do that they don't realize that can make them age faster. So, for example, recently I was with my mom, and my mom is going to be 83, I think 84. She wasn't too sure. But one of the things she does was she still cooks, and she cooks for herself and she cooks for anyone that comes to her, particularly people looking after her. She makes their meals for them. They don't make the meals for her. She makes the meals for them. And I found that really, really interesting. She lives in a bungalow, but her bungalow is such that she can go up and down just a few steps, and she can walk around the bungalow. And she is still quite active for an 83-year-old woman, which I'm really proud of. But, gradually, I find that a lot of people, especially our generation, we are sitting down a lot, and people going to retirement, sitting down a lot, not doing much. They have their drivers, they have their cars, they move from place to place in their car. They go from AC to AC room. And that worries me. What do you think? Should we maybe briefly talk about maybe some of the pitfalls, some of the things we're doing now that potentially can make us age faster?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Jai, because recently I was speaking somewhere and I let them know that, see, when you tell an elderly person to just remain seated all the time, you're not doing the person a favor. We see it as a sign of respect and honor, but it's not good for that person because studies have also shown that sedentary behavior is the I think it's a third risk factor for premature death globally. So the worse the cardiac event they might have, the worse the osteoarthritis, the worse their insulin resistance. So we really need to change that mindset and let our elders know that they need to move as often as possible. That's what keeps them going. So I believe that's what is working for your mom because she's cooking, she's doing all those things at age 83. That is what is keeping her going. And so it's very important that we keep encouraging her. We shouldn't allow them to become sedentary and not just do anything. When that happens, they also lose the zest, that they can enjoy life. And that is what also lowers the quality of life. And then they are now prone to depression. Even for individuals that don't move, they are more likely to become anxious because they are sitting down there just thinking about different things, except to learn how to meditate, like you mentioned, and you learn mindfulness, taking pleasure in the little things that you do and reflecting on how they can benefit you and even people around you. So yes, there are things that we must learn. Meditation, mindfulness, they help to reduce acute stress. They help to reduce anxiety and also reduce the risk of depression. And that will now improve health-related quality of life and therefore health span.
Yes, yes. And the other thing again is, again, I'm using my mom's example. It took her a while to get used to technology. And you find that nowadays, the main way people connect is through technology. I mean, we're on virtual meeting right now, but we are connecting, conversing with about things that we both enjoy talking about. And more, you find that people are maybe getting a bit fed up or they don't really catch up with the trend and they just give up completely. Now, the risk here is loneliness, isn't it? Which I know also has an impact on how quickly people age. What do you think about that?
Yes. So loneliness is a thing. Social isolation kills morale. It kills the zest in life. It reduces quality of life. So there are two different things we could look at. We could look at loneliness, not being able to connect with people around you, and being alone. You could be alone, but you know how to make connections so you don't feel lonely.
Yes.
So we need to help our older ones, especially, so that they don't feel lonely. So you might not be with them, but connect with them. And that's where technology comes. That's how you can get to, that's what we're doing right now. We're making use of technology to connect. And one could have family time on technical apps like this. So I think we need to get our older ones aware of these technologies, even if it is WhatsApp, if it is Facebook, ways that they can see what is going on. But of course, we shouldn't now minimize the importance of the in-person interaction. Because for younger people, there are a few studies that show that younger people that spend a lot of time on Facebook are more prone to anxiety and depression. I don't know whether it's the same for older people. But I think over time, older people, because of we're used to the in-person interaction. So we just need to find a way of boosting that interaction when not available with the technology that is available.
I agree completely. I think again, we don't know much about the use of. I don't think my mom would use Facebook or anything like that. I think she would use the phone mainly to call people and WhatsApp. But turning that conversation into people perhaps in the midlife or people in their 30s and in their 40s, because I believe that whatever people do now is what will reflect in their life and in their health span as we all get older. And I always say to people, connecting with people is very important. It's like what our soul needs. Our body needs things, our soul needs things, our spirit needs things. And connecting can definitely be calling people, speaking to a family member, getting to know your neighbors. Just go out there, speak to your neighbors. Make sure you at least say hello to your neighbor at least once or twice or 3 times a week, depending on where you live. Obviously, some people who live abroad hardly see their neighbors, and some people who live in Nigeria or any other part of the country or the world may see their neighbors a bit more. But taking time to speak to them would make a big difference. And even things like hobbies, going out. Yeah, I'm not too sure what kind of hobbies people do nowadays, but some people just play chess. Some people like online gaming, and some people prefer doing just things on the TV. But actually going out to maybe play squash or play football or play any other game outside. Those are ways that we can really connect with other people. And that helps even from midlife, because if you're able to build those habits from midlife, it makes a difference as we all get older, isn't it? So the
Yeah.
next one I would like to talk about is, and I know you talked about it recently, is having a sense of purpose. And I think that is really important. And, a lot of studies have shown that people die with a lot of money. People, have a lot of money in their banks and they don't like giving things out and all sorts of things because they are preparing for old age and all sorts of things. But more and more, we know that purpose is quite central to our life, and doing things that you enjoy makes a difference. One of the things we can do really well is giving, and whether it's giving our time or our resources, this is a bit of us that is linked with our purpose. Tell us a bit more. I really like that video you made about purpose. Tell us a bit more about how this can help us age well or age gracefully.
Yeah, thank you so much. So living a purposeful life, it's so key. I think it first of all starts with a sense of being connected to someone greater than we are, which is God. So we know that God is our creator, and we should first of all think, why am I here in the first place? And part of what I shared in that video was we would get to know why we're here by virtue of the drive, that inner desire, and the passion that we have. You mentioned something about giving. Some people are philanthropists. Some people, they have that sense of caring for other people, seeking people's welfare. So they do it without trying or without
Comes so
struggling.
natural to them.
Natural to them. But for other people, some people have to learn it, because just like you said, it is one of the things that has been shown to actually improve mental wellness. I remember that after COVID-19, there was a survey that was done across a number of countries. I came across that survey, and they were trying to pinpoint the things that helped people through the COVID-19. What were the things that actually helped people through that time? And they discovered that it wasn't really the amount of money they had. It wasn't because these were highly developed countries. So what they linked, there were two important things that they pointed out: volunteering and showing kindness, acts of kindness and volunteering. Of course, the acts of kindness included donations. So they discovered that those factors were responsible for people being able to scale through the challenge of everything that happened with COVID-19. Mm-hmm. So we could learn it. And when we learn it and we start practicing it, that's when we realize that, oh, this has actually improved my mental wellness. This has actually helped me. But if we don't try, we won't realize how much good we're doing ourselves and people around us. Mm. So that's part of what we need to learn, in addition to the giftings that we have. So the giftings we have, the talents we have. For example, now I love singing. In fact, if you say any word or any phrase or any sentence, if it is possible for me to link it to a song, I will.
Wow.
Drives some of what I do. That's why I'm able to write some poems. That's why I'm able to write some songs. I believe it's inspired by God, because He has put that on my inside. Not everyone can do that, but there are people can do. Some people are good at fashion, putting things together, and it makes them so happy.
I know.
So what makes you happy? What makes you tick?
Yeah.
Some people is caring for animals.
I know. And some
I saw
it's caring for flowers. And it's always so incredible to see how people can become passionate about all sorts of different things. I always find it really fascinating to watch things when people have some passions. I'm like, wow, that's incredible.
Then about our character strengths.
Mm.
So, and places you can go online to kind of do a self-assessment to say, what is my character strengths? The acts of kindness? Is it creativity? Is it transcendence? So there are different things that we could actually find out about ourselves, which will help us to narrow down on what God really wants us to do. So we ourselves doing every single thing that people tell us to do. Or things that are
amazing. I mean, what I'm learning for that is one, our sense of purpose comes from being connected to a bigger picture. And for me and for you, for us, it's God. For some other people, they might find that is something else. But when you do that, you understand what your own strengths are, and there are a number of opportunities to do that online. And by the time you combine those two things, you will find that it's easier for you to give back, whether it's in terms of kindness or in cash or in terms of resources. And that makes a lot of difference in how you age. And we're talking about aging gracefully. We're talking about living well. We're talking about living long in a healthy way. Thank you so much, Dr. Ori. We're kind of running out of time now, but I'm just interested in two more things. How are you managing to age so gracefully, Dr. Ori? Tell us some of your secrets.
So I think number one, I'll talk about the genes. So when we're talking about our biological age, 20% of how we age can be attributed to our genetics. And I think I got some good genes from my parents.
Yay!
So I thank God for that.
Yeah.
That people look at me and tell me that I'm 26.
Amazing. When you stand with your daughters, I'm always like, where's the mom? Where's the daughter?
One side, but 80% of what happens with your biological age has to do with lifestyle choices. And I try to be intentional about the pillars of lifestyle medicine. I talk a lot about them to my patients. And once I talk about it, I try to live it, not just make it a theoretical thing. So, and there are 6 major pillars, and those pillars have been linked to, have been linked to improve longevity. However, let me mention just a few of the things. So I try my best to get at least 7 hours sleep as much as possible. I'm sure if you read my book, The Ultimate Sleep Coaching Guide,
yes, I've read it. I have it here.
So I try my best to sleep well. And then I spend time in nature. I exercise. I try and do at least 30 minutes of moderate intensity activity on a daily basis. And I have challenges with people in my community to also encourage them to do that and even keep myself accountable. So I talked about nature. When you go for your walks, it helps you to connect with nature, what God has created, for you to see the beauty in what God has created, the trees, the flowers, the sky. I always love that. And studies have shown that if you have more of green around you, then you're likely, so the bigger the patch of green, the longer your lifespan.
Ooh, I like that.
We had a study, I think it was carried out in over 100,000 women, and they were able to show that those people who stayed more within natural spaces or green spaces, they actually had improved mental health. They had reduced anxieties and stress. They had improved sleep, and they also had improved longevity. Aside from that, I try to keep to a predominantly plant-based diet. I know that some people might find that boring, and some people roll their eyes when you're not getting red meat, especially on your plate. In fact, at a point, I was off chicken as well for a long time. And by the time I wanted to come back to take a bit, I actually found it difficult because my taste buds are kind of changed.
Changed.
Or 21 days to change the taste in your mouth. So I do mostly fish, and then I avoid all these pastries. So you won't see me with meat pies or small chops or donuts and all of that. If I'm going to take a piece of cake, to be very little. And so those are some of the things I believe are contributing. There are other pillars in lifestyle medicine. I didn't mention substance avoidance, avoiding alcohol and other street drugs. Of course, I don't do alcohol. We also have the pillar of connectedness, connecting with important people in your life. Yes, I try to do that. My parents were just here with me for about 3 weeks, and it was great. I look forward to spending time even with my own family. So we have vacations at least once or twice a year where everyone can be together, the kind of family retreats, and talk about our goals and shared experiences. So those are some of the things that I do that I believe are helping me with the grace of God.
And it's showing, and it's incredible because you are such a big role model for me and for so many other people. I can't thank you enough for joining me this afternoon, Dr. Ore. I know you always have a busy schedule, and we've been trying to get this done for so many weeks. And I'll be sharing a number of the links you've talked about your book and about the lifestyle champions as well, because I'm one of them, and the community that you have. I'll be sharing all of these links at the end. We are in the last minute now, and I would just like you to give me 2 or 3 quick take-home messages before we say bye to our audience. Very quickly.
Well, I want to say thank you, Jaye, for what you're doing. This is awesome. Thank you for bringing together like minds to encourage our patients and people out there on how to live well and age well. Secondly, my message for people out there is don't be afraid of making a lifestyle change. Just make the first initial choice, and that healthy choice will lead to another one. One healthy choice leads to another. So you can start small, and then with every step of the way, you keep getting better, and you find out that that choice becomes a habit.